Parts of South-East Queensland have been shut off, with roads cut, schools closed and waterways bulging as a persistent deluge continues to drench an already saturated region. A major flood warning remains in place for several rivers and creeks, with the Weather Bureau warning we're not out of the woods just yet. Jessica Stewart begins our coverage.
Boona from above, the town west of Brisbane swallowed up by relentless rain, roads in and out shut off, the high school one of 20 shut down for now.
These past 3 days, much of the southeast and western Queensland has been subject to an extreme weather event, a rain bomb that will continue for at least another day.
Southeast Queensland's big wet proving the perfect outside excursion for some.
Hopefully it eases off. Otherwise we've got a birthday party to cancel on the weekend.
Football fields resembled swimming pools at Jimboomba as flooded roads were closed to cars.
And if you do not have to be on the roads, please stay off them.
It failed to deter some. At Logan Home, this was a familiar sight. At Greenbank, one car almost entirely submerged, just a few inches of its roof remain above water. Its passenger made it out just in time.
It's just like a little causeway and it's a nice flat bit of road, so I don't understand how they've done it at all.
At Pullenvale, cars backed up at blocked roads while it was an unconventional trip to school for this student at Deception Bay.
We have dozens of gauges that have seen over 120 millimetres and 8 gauges that have seen over 200 millimetres.
Parts of Logan and the scenic rim are on flood watch as waterways continue to swell.
We have a major flood warning for the Logan River at Beaudesert, and we also have a major flood warning for the Brisbane catchment at Worrell Creek.
It's prompted Logan City Council to open its Disaster Coordination Centre. For some Logan residents, the extreme weather is an all too familiar scenario.
My in-laws have farmland over the back here behind all the river, and the last lot of flooding that came through, they lost their entire crop.
On the Sunshine Coast, Mount Coolum resembled a waterfall. After almost 8 days of nagging rain, the Weather Bureau says it won't be until tomorrow afternoon when we're likely to see a glimpse of sunshine in southeast Queensland.
This event is not quite over yet.
Jessica Stewart, ABC News.
Let's go live to reporter George Roberts, who's at Beaudesert. George, what's ahead for residents out that way tonight?
Matt, it's more drenching rain and hours of it. Just after night of drenching rain, more is forecast tonight, and emergency authorities say there could be 4 to 5 hours of downpours on this already sodden and drenched catchment. We've seen roads and bridges already underwater here, and if meteorologists are correct and the rains do come again tonight, then it's residents of low-lying properties along the Logan River corridor that are at real risk of going under, Matt, and they're telling them to get to higher ground tonight before any rains come.
And George, it seems drivers are continuing to ignore warnings about driving through floodwaters.
That's right. We've witnessed a number of people attempting to drive through floodwaters this afternoon, Matt, and 2 of them were 2 men just behind us a short time ago. They drove into the floodwaters behind me, stalling their Mercedes-Benz. They had to be plucked to safety by emergency managers. They brought in the Swiftwater rescue team and took a boat out to them to get them back safely to this side of the flood. Now, they had driven through roadblocks and they had ignored the advice of authorities, and so for that little adventure they've cost themselves a reasonable fine and some demerit points, Matt. But it goes to just put another emphasis on that point that emergency management authorities are saying, and that is if it's flooded, you just shouldn't drive through it.
All right, George, thank you. It's good advice. Gold Coast residents have now weathered 3 days of unrelenting rain. As well as the ongoing danger of flash flooding, authorities are watching with concern as waterways continue to rise. An emergency alert has been issued for residents north of Pimpamar to consider moving to higher ground if they come under threat. Dominic Cansdale reports.
Despite the endless safety warnings from authorities, some people are still taking their chances. This driver dicing with disaster.
Whoa, there he goes. There he goes.
Almost swept away by the deep, fast-moving tide.
He got away with it this time, and some people get away with it once or twice.
but eventually your car will float and you will be trapped in floodwaters.
In the foothills of Tamborine Mountain, the streets are awash.
Had over half a metre of rain since Saturday morning.
Neil Parton hasn't seen falls like this for almost 30 years.
This is the most continuous since probably, I grew up in the area, 93, 94. I remember it when I was a kid up on the mountain. We had a lot of rain over 4 days.
Even the earthworms are trying to get indoors.
It's huge.
Roads are cut, leaving drivers stranded.
Trying to get home, yeah.
So I've been on the coast for 24 years, but this is the worst I've ever seen it. It's just unbelievable.
So here in the northern Gold Coast suburb of Wongawallan, this creek here, Howard's Creek, has been completely cut off. Just north of us here, there was a landslip yesterday which forced the evacuation of about 3 properties, and we've already spoken to folks stuck in their cars just up the road here, residents who obviously can't get through.
The deluge isn't over yet.
The entire catchment area throughout our city are saturated, and we expect it'll be another 100 millimetres over the next 12 to 18 hours.
3 evacuation centres will be opened if needed.
It's a watch and wait for Mother Nature, and if it looks like we've got to evacuate, we click the switch and our centres will go on.
Just like the floodwaters, uncertainty lingers. Dominic Hansdale, ABC News, Gold Coast.
Well, silver lining time, and the rains have been welcomed across large parts of regional Queensland, especially by drought-declared farmers from the Southern Downs to the Central West. Brittany Klein reports.
7 o'clock in the morning, Storm King. It's the best flow we've seen in I don't know how many years. Absolutely awesome.
The wet a welcome sight in places that have been praying for such a deluge. On Arinya Station between Quilpie and Thargomindah, it's been exactly 1 year since the paddocks were soaked like this.
So to have a follow-up flood just before winter and a follow-up season is just absolutely great.
A number of surrounding properties will also reap the benefits of this much rain. Around 50 millimetres fell in the area last night.
So we can bring in more cows, more breeders, and the current cattle we have they'll really benefit from it.
It's also optimised the view at Victo Station north of Cunnamulla.
It's great. It's coming away very nicely.
A little further south of town, there's already enough rain in the gauge to last the season. If there were photos to capture the mood, these family snaps at Bulu Downs would do it.
People can sort of get back on track here now and sort of go through winter with what we've got.
It's not every Monday night patrons encounter this when leaving the Birdsville pub. It's also not every day Angus Emmett's property southwest of Longreach resembles a raging torrent. While the skies in some parts still look ominous, producers, sellers and buyers alike now have hope for the first time in years.
My dam has actually got water in it this morning. Very strange for me to say that.
What's not strange is to celebrate this unseasonal downpour. With 2/3 of the state still in drought. Brittany Klein, ABC News.